So we featured 11 small businesses and helped them build Kickstarter campaigns to see if it was an applicable tool for small businesses in Chicago.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Avi, how about you?
Hi, I'm Avi, and I'm a Kiva representative here in Chicago. Kiva is a crowdfunding website that basically connects socially minded lenders with entrepreneurs in more than 60 countries. Kiva has historically worked with international borrowers, but about a year and a half ago, we launched a new pilot project called Kiva Zip, and its aim is to provide interest-free small business loans to entrepreneurs in the United States. And what's kind of new about this initiative is that it uses a lending model based on community relationships. So let's say if there's some entrepreneur who wants to open up a coffee shop but can't get loans from a traditional source like a bank. However, that entrepreneur probably knows people in his community, maybe his church pastor, maybe someone from his local community development organization who can vouch for him and attest to his character. So the idea behind Kiva Zip is that entrepreneurs can basically get someone from their community to write an endorsement for them on our website, which essentially acts like a public character reference that our lenders can use as a trust mechanism to do the lending. And for the first loan, entrepreneurs can get up to $5,000, and for subsequent loans, it can go up to $50,000.
Okay, thanks, Avi. Glenn?
Hi everyone, I'm Glenn Kendall, co-founder of SentUp. We're a tool that helps content creators, whether writers, podcasters, artists, photographers, raise money for themselves on their own website, with half of that money going to charity. And we launched our company using Indiegogo as our platform. The video you saw earlier was the video we used to entice people to contribute to us. Unfortunately, it's down now, so if you just saw that video for the first time and go to that URL, you won't be able to contribute, but please come to our site.
Okay, thanks, Lon. And Kate?
Hi everyone, I'm Kate Drain and I'm here from Indiegogo. And Indiegogo is the global trusted crowdfunding platform that empowers people to fund what matters to them. And so we have thousands of campaigns start every week and that raise millions of dollars and brings it to places across the world, and one of our greatest markets is Chicago. So I'm so excited to be here. I'm originally from Chicago. My mom is here in the audience. Thanks for having me.
Okay, how about a round of applause for our panelists? Okay, well, I'd like to ask you, the audience, now a few questions. How many of you are entrepreneurs? Oh, wow. Okay, most of you. How about giving yourself a hand? You guys got a lot of guts on. Oh, yeah. I forget who it says. Some well-known guy, I forget his name, he said that entrepreneurs are a rare breed. So congratulations. How many of you are currently seeking capital? Most of you. Okay. And how many of you are currently seriously thinking about crowdfunding? Oh, most of you. Okay. How many of you know somebody who's already crowdfunded? A number of you. And how many of you have already crowdfunded yourself? Oh, okay, you probably know more than I do. Nice, okay. Well, before I turn it back over to the panel, I'd like to set some context for our discussion, because the word crowdfunding gets bandied about quite a bit. And quite frankly, it's not a new concept at all. It's actually a very old concept. How many people here have ever given money to a charity? Anybody? Your local school or alma mater? Okay, anybody, when they pass around the head of church, give money, right? How many, who here's crowdfunding a political campaign? Hardly anybody. You probably don't like the product, okay. But the fact of the matter is, it's a pretty basic concept. How many people here know that the Statue of Liberty was crowdfunded back in 1884? Anybody? Okay. Joe Pulitzer, Pulitzer Prize fame, he put an ad on his newspaper trying to raise money to build the Statue of Liberty. And in 6 months, he raised about $100,000 from about 125,000 donors. So if you do the math, it's about an average donation of 80 cents. But he was lucky. Back then he had that platform. Very few people did. Fast forward to today, and we've had some big game changers. One of them being the internet, right? So now virtually any of you, any of us, anybody on the planet can set up a website and broadcast what you're looking for, not just to your friends or family or your community or the US, but the entire planet. And that in and of itself is a game changer. So you see already a lot of money being raised, mainly now through donation crowdfunding. But this could get a whole lot bigger than it is right now. The second big game changer is the Jobs Act. How many people are familiar with the Jobs Act? Okay. Obama signed it into law last April 5th, and that's a game changer because it allows what's called investment crowdfunding. There's mainly two types of crowdfunding. Donor, where you get either nothing back, or you might get a perk reward, or maybe they pre-sell the product, you get the product when it's finished. And then there's investment crowdfunding where there's a security involved, such as a loan or a share of stock. Those are the two main types of crowdfunding. And this Jobs Act is going to make it legal to engage in investment crowdfunding for you. And what that means is you're going to be able to go after what are called non-accredited investors. How many of you are familiar with the terms accredited investor and non-accredited investor? You know the difference. Critical. Accredited investors means that in the last 2 years you've made about $200,000 or more of income, or you have a net worth of about $1 million or more, not counting your home, okay? There's about 6 million accredited investors in the United States right now. Not bad. But right now, for people 21 and older, there's about 220 million Americans. That's a huge market to tap for funding, and that doesn't count overseas. And with the Jobs Act, you can not only raise money here in the States, but you can also raise it overseas. Foreigners can't raise money themselves, but they can invest in your company. So if you take the internet and you combine it with the Jobs Act, where now you can put up your site and go after zillions of people on the planet to fund your enterprise. And those two game changers together are, some people are calling that revolutionary. So if somebody tells you they're crowdfunding, you might want to ask, well, you're going to know off the hand that most what they're talking about is online crowdfunding. And you might want to ask them the following questions. What crowdfunding portal are you using? They call it a crowdfunding portal, a crowdfunding intermediary. It could be called a website or a site or a platform. What portal are you using? Is it Indiegogo? Is it Kickstarter? Is it Kiva? Number two, what type of crowdfunding are you engaging in? Is it donor-based or is it investment-based? Then number three, if it's donor-based, you might ask, what do they get? Anything? Or is it based on perks and rewards? They might get a t-shirt or a mug or other nice perks and rewards. Or is it a pre-sale where they get the actual product? Or number four, if it's investment crowdfunding, then ask them, is it debt or equity? And last but not least, ask them, are you going after accredited or non-accredited investors? So I hope that kind of clarifies what we mean by crowdfunding, because, you know, if you're passing around the hat at church, that's a crowd. The crowd can get together for any reason to give their money. That's so-called crowdfunding. But for all practical purposes, when we talk about crowdfunding, we're talking about raising money online, and it's either donor-based or investment-based. And if it's investment-based, you're going after either accredited and or non-accredited investors. So I hope that kind of clarifies the terrain for you. So now I'd like to turn it back over to the panel. And why don't we start with Glenn? We first want to start talking about, you know, should you crowdfund? What are the advantages and disadvantages? So Len, what was your thought process before you decided to crowdfund Cento?
Sure, so I think the biggest decision you have to make is what do you want to use crowdfunding for? So for us, it was either A, use the money to build or expand on a product, or B, use it essentially as a market test or a pre-sale. So in the former option, you know, basically you have an idea, you think it's really great, you don't have the resources to build it. Crowdfunding is an option where you can basically tell a lot of people, here's what I want to create, and I want you to help me be part of it, and you're going to be incentivized through early access or through great rewards or whatever it might be. And the latter is the option we took, which is, you know, basically offering a product that is either near completion or is already completed but not yet released, and trying to gauge, you know, is there interest in that? A lot of the most successful crowdfunded campaigns were actually pre-sales. So people were putting down $50, $100, $200, and they were getting something when it was ready. When you see, you know, some of those famous examples of someone crowdfunding, you know, a watch or building a museum or whatever it might be, they're buying a piece of something, and that's the route we wanted to take. So with CentUp, you know, we essentially were offering people kind of first access to use our product. And for us, you know, it was great. We raised $18,000. We tried to have a very moderate goal that was achievable, and one that, you know, we knew would be a really powerful talking point down the road when we talk to investors, when we talk to publishers and even charities, to show them that there were hand raisers out there that were interested in supporting and actually being a customer of what we were building.
So even though you're crowdfunding, your number one goal wasn't to raise money, it was more to validate your product and see if there's demand, right?
That's right.
Interesting. Kate, what type of raises do you see people coming to Indiegogo for? Why are they crowdfunding? Is it sync with what Linda?
Definitely. We see things running the gamut. By breaking it down into, I thought you segmented it very well. But for people who are raising money and also using it as a way to test demand and use it as a piece of marketing collateral. Is it okay if I quick share a story?
Sure.
Okay. So I actually how I came to Indiegogo, I have a small business myself. It's called the Can Van. It's a mobile beer canning service for craft breweries. So we roll around the Bay Area, we can people's beer, we leave it with them, we drink some beer with them, and then we drive away. Not at the same time.
Sounds like a good company.
Yeah, it's fun.
Would anybody crowdfund that company?
And so I learned about Indiegogo, we put it up on Indiegogo in October 2011, before crowdfunding was as prevalent as it is today. I mean, there was so much interest, I'm so excited. But so we started in 2011 because we had a very small, modest goal. We just needed $10,000 to fund our trailer. And we raised $4,000 out of $10,000. But what we got out of this was this great exposure that we would have never had we not put it up on a platform. So because of our campaign, so we were featured in Fast Company 4 months before we were operational. Like we had nothing. We had an idea and a business plan, and we were featured in Fast Company. Our largest investor found us because we were featured in a campaigner roundup, and so she only invests in boozy enterprises owned by women, and we fit that very unique niche. She's like, oh, there are 3 women who own this beer canning service. I would love to invest a large sum of money in them. And we would have never had access to her had we not and it's courageous to put your story up on crowdfunding. Like, it's courageous to put your story up and ask people for feedback through dollars. And people were willing to vote with their dollars and say that they wanted to see more of it. And that's what we see every day, are people being courageous, being fearless, putting their story out there to the world and having amazing things come back to them.
So it sounds like you already, at that point, had a major advertising campaign and you weren't even started.
Exactly. And we didn't even know that, and it helped us develop our brand voice. There were so many things that weren't related to the money that we were able to receive in return.
I'm just curious, at that point, how much money had